things. Thanks.
So let me just say this. Mary's correct. My focus for the enterprise is research services. It's facilitating clinical research primarily for Stony Brook Medicine and the campus in general. This talk is labeled Healthcare Data Security. Primarily what I want to do is just to let you know as an overview of what we're doing for the enterprise. Also, why do breaches occur? What Stony Brook does today? What can we do better? Okay? And then I want some time for discussion and feedback. Okay? Sorry, I like to move around a little bit, so if you see me walking around, it's okay. One of the things I want to make sure is that this talk is interactive. So as I go through the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, okay? They may lead to additional discussions, okay? Last thing, Christine, don't heckle me, please. Christine Geronder is our Director for Enterprise Analytics. Okay, so data breaches. Data breaches are becoming more prevalent and costly. The average cost for a data breach for a healthcare institution is $7 million. Okay, this includes remediation, identity theft repair, credit monitoring, notification, business disruption, okay, loss of customers, regulatory fines, and legal cost. In addition to the regulatory requirements that govern this space, i.e. HIPAA, NIH, CDC, and others, okay, we also have part of this is new technologies that present new and varied problems, okay? And all of this stems from the explosion of and volume of data transmission is increasing at unprecedented rates. Okay, the new normal for healthcare, okay? The evolving threat landscape. Cyber attacks today are more sophisticated. They're well funded, given the increased value of the compromised data on the black market. One of the things that you'll find very interesting is that hackers go where they're most prevalent, where it's more lucrative. Okay, so over the last 10 to 15 years, the trend has been from moving away from banking and financial institutions that have put in place very comprehensive security procedures, moving away to evolving markets like healthcare where the security is evolving and it hasn't caught up yet, okay? And the other part about this that you'll learn is healthcare data has become more lucrative, okay, over time. So all of this started with the adoption and digital patient records and the automation of clinical systems, okay? The use of antiquated EMR in clinical applications also pose a threat as they're not designed to securely operate in today's network environment. In addition, the ease of distributing PHI both internally, laptops, mobile devices, thumb drives, and externally, third parties and cloud services have compromised this space as well. Okay. In addition, the heterogeneous nature of network systems and applications. We've got a proliferation of network-enabled respirator pumps on the same network as our EMR systems as well, and other systems. Those pose a threat. Initially, when these devices came in, no one governed that space. No one looked at these devices for being an additional risk layer on the network. Okay, so that has also helped to compromise and systems as well, and has brought on a lot of discussion of how we clean this up within our environment. General challenges to the healthcare space. Okay, most of you know these. Legacy computer systems, okay? We've went from Windows 95 to Windows 98. We've got Windows XP, okay, followed by Windows 7, Windows 10, okay? Within our enterprise space, it's not just EMR and health systems. We also have compromised facilitators sort of as research systems. Our basic science systems also pose a threat as well. Okay? Within the basic science space, we have, whether it's HPLC devices that are old, that run Windows 95, okay, that are on our network, those pose a threat as well. So we've gone from looking at EMR to looking at possible compromises from our weakest security links, and they're all over the place. Okay. In addition, internet-based devices, wireless connections, bring your own devices also pose a threat as well. How do we, as an enterprise, how do we allow these devices to interact with our sensitive information? Okay. We'll talk about what we've done to also ensure that we aren't compromised in this space as well. Okay. We're the only sector that stores PII, PHI, and PCI, okay, which makes us the best possible source for compromise, the most lucrative source. Okay? Under 500 records, we don't have to disclose. So victims are often unaware when PHI is stolen as well. Okay? Third-party vendors also pose a threat to our network access. Okay? And as I mentioned before, healthcare information, a lot more lucrative on the black market. Patient identifiable information, okay, and patient care information. Okay. Can you guys hear me all the way in the back? Cheap seats? Okay, thank you. All right, so we've had an explosion of data from medical records and imaging, telemedicine, physician collaboration. This says clinical trials, but in the research space in general, okay, we're gathering tremendous amounts of data. Okay, post-discharge patient monitoring, population health. For DISRIP, we're collecting vast amounts of data as well, and also patient-generated data. Okay, so the causes of data breaches today. Can you guys tell what we're facing? 69% are authorized users. Okay, that includes, why am I getting reverb? All right. That includes negligent insider, outsourcing vendors, and also malicious insiders. Okay, so the way that most of our systems are compromised is, huh?
Us.
Really? We have met the enemy, and he is us. All right. So sources of data breaches. 63% of employees use personal email for sensitive work documents. Okay? And believe it or not, 74% believe that their companies approve. All right. 63% use remote storage USB devices. We've got folks that will lose a laptop at another facility or on the train someplace. That also poses a level of compromise. 43% use outside of the organization cloud storage like Dropbox and Box. Believe it or not, Dropbox is permitted within Stony Brook Medicine. Okay, it's part of the research collaborative and storage space. 30% use other cloud storage for work-related files. Okay, and the reason that they give for to substantiate the use of these types of tendencies is that the convenience over the company email system. Okay, and 18% is in that space is also compromised mobile devices. All right, so let's look at new technologies that present new and varied problems. We've got technology sort of Google Glass. Personable medical wearables. Everybody have a Fitbit here? Okay. No? No Fitbits? Apple Watch. There you go. Google Fit, pill scanning technologies. The device market is endless. Okay. The global wearable market device in 2012 was at $2 billion. Okay, that's $2 billion in revenue. Okay, in 2019, it's projected to be 5.8 billion. Okay, so that's a tremendous leap. We are consuming data on an exponential rate. Not just consuming it, but we're also producing it at an exponential rate. Okay? All sorts of things for the wearable device market. Heart rate and vitals, activity monitors, ECG, EEG, EMG, baby monitoring, glucose monitoring. Wherever it is a niche market, someone will develop an application or facilitate a device to actually meet that need. The weak link, or one of the weak links in our security is currently medical devices. Okay? If you look on Shodan, which is a search engine for connected devices, you'll see about 36,000 healthcare-related devices on that search engine. Okay? It exposes the IP address, internet-facing hardware, physical location, port used, and operating system. Why is that problematic? Anybody? We've got some IT people in the space over here. You guys can actually contribute as well. Why is that problematic? Huh? Okay, so let's look at this. Security is an evolving landscape. What's secure right now in terms of operating system, hardware is always evolving. Okay? 6 months down the road, you can find out that there's an exploit for hardware. There's an exploit for an operating system. Okay? Having the ability to track where your most susceptible devices are, okay, and having the ability to actually target them free at will is potentially the best solution for a hacker. Okay? St. Jude Medical, which is a manufacturer, okay, had some fallout from some of their vulnerabilities for defibrillators, pacemakers, and other medical devices. Okay? We're in an age right now where if you have a device that's unsecured, an attacker can use like an insulin pump to administer a fatal dose. Okay? Vulnerable medical devices also connect to our internal networks. If they're compromised, it's a source for hackers to be able to compromise our internal network as well. Okay, I think I mentioned this. A few years ago, the FBI cybersecurity group identified gaps in healthcare. Okay, they knew simply because they were looking at the data. They saw the transition between hackers trying to get into financial systems, trying to infiltrate wherever the more lucrative places were to hack, and what they saw was the transition from equipment and the systems that manage that equipment. They keep it separate from the network itself, the actual UHMC network, and as a result, we really can't help them as much. We don't have backups. We don't take their data and we don't store it on the network. So some of that has changed as well. Okay? Any other questions before I move on?
I'm just wondering, the Bitcoin system, how does it work? Is that you put the bank, the criminals would actually withdraw the money? I just don't understand how
all right, so I'm not an expert on Bitcoin, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last year, so let's hope I can explain this. So Bitcoin is digital currency. Unlike a traditional banking transaction, the way it works is this. If I want to transfer money within a regular banking system to you, I would go to like, let me give you an example. There's everybody see the commercial for a Bank of, what's that company again? Bank of New York or something, transfer money to a friend or something like that. But in terms of Bitcoin, you would go, it's almost like going to Walmart and saying, well, okay, I need to pay someone for this. And that transaction, you put money in a card and you say, okay, I want to send it to this person. That person is really a routing, okay? number or a route in place where the criminals get that transaction. Mary, you want to add anything?
No.
Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, out of the 88% of ransomware attacks that occurred in healthcare organizations, 94% were linked to a specific software called CryptoWall, which is the ransomware we just talked about. Okay, the latest variant of CryptoWall is called WannaCry. Okay, it's aptly named. Okay, after you get your data encrypted and you can't access it anymore, you want to cry. All right, so what we did internally, I mentioned some of that, was all our servers and workstations were patched. Okay, at the enterprise level, we've got tools to patch all our desktops that are connected to the network, connected to our Active Directory domain. Okay, we still had some remediation in terms of our voice over IP systems. Okay, in terms of our EMRs, Cerner did their due diligence as well. Okay, to make sure all their servers in Kansas City were patched. And as I said before, security is an evolving landscape. We remain vigilant. One of the other factors in this that people didn't readily understand was, you talk about the enterprise, but our enterprise has grown. Okay? It's no longer just Stony Brook. We've got our physicians networks. We've got multiple hospitals that I'll mention in a little while. And you've got a lot of business associates that you've got to ensure that they're doing what they have to do as well. The enterprise may be doing everything that they can do, but you've got to reach out to your business associates. And at times, you've got to treat them like foreigners. Okay? Whether we do dual authentication, okay, which we're looking at for a lot of our external partners, okay, to try to protect ourselves and consolidate that space as much as possible, but it forces us to redefine some of our relationships as well. Okay, so I won't bore you with some of this, but these slides will be presented to you, okay, but it's essentially some of the breaches that have occurred over the actually this year, okay? And some of the fines that were levied towards organizations for those breaches. Okay? You guys want me to read them, or you'll absorb them later? Okay? This is one of my favorites. I've got to get into this. The most expensive subway ride. Massachusetts General Hospital recently entered into a $1 million resolution agreement and corrective action plan. Okay, with the Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights. The settlement stemmed from an incident in March 2009 when an employee was commuting on a subway. Okay, removed documents containing PHI from her bag. Okay, placed them on her seat beside her, and guess what she did? After the train ride, she left. Documents were never recovered. Okay, documents contained PHI of 192 individuals, including HIV information. Okay, so we've got devices that, from an IT level, we can orchestrate technology to secure. Okay, but one of the things that we cannot do is safeguard the organization without educating you guys. Okay. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys how we've grown it as an enterprise. Okay. In 2009, we had 36 ambulatory sites. This year, 65 ambulatory sites. Okay, so we have grown tremendously as an organization, but we're doing, as IT, we're doing so much more, okay? And the security landscape is so much more complicated. Okay, let's look at our risk profile and areas that concern us most in the IT space. The protection of, generally the protection of systems, users, PHI, vulnerabilities and exploits. Onboarding timely and accurately, we're trying to do as well. Offboarding timely and accurately. In one of the previous slides, the way the organization was compromised, and offboarding is a particular issue, was that the hackers used a compromised account of a previous employee. And the reason it's so concerning was they used that employee's or the former employee's account for an entire year. Okay, so it's one of the things we try to ensure, especially because within our enterprise, we are integrated within our employee system, which is PeopleSoft. So when someone leaves, we can terminate that person's account really quickly. Onboarding at times becomes a problem. We don't turn that around as quickly, but we're employing a new identity and account management system which will integrate within PeopleSoft so we can turn that around a lot faster. Okay, just go through it. Okay, so what have we done so far to remediate a lot of these issues? In terms of the network-based antivirus and malware scanning from the internet, all files, okay, actually let me just take a step back. These slides weren't mine, I just want to speak to that right now, so I'm going to sort of consolidate them as I read them. So on the network, on our servers we have antivirus and other systems that will scan for viruses. On your desktops, if you have a UHMC system, okay, you've got antivirus on that desktop as well. In addition to that, one of the things that we've done is, if you have a new desktop, we've employed encryption on that desktop. Okay, so even if your information is stolen, or if you've seen the size of the desktops these days, anybody seen the size of the desktop? They're about, you seen pancakes? They're about a double stack of pancakes. That's how big they are. So the potential for someone grabbing that desktop really quickly, and if they knew that some sensitive information was stored on there, they would take it and try to compromise that. That's been diminished because now we have encryption on the desktop as well. So even if you take the drive, you couldn't get the data. Okay. Other thing we've enforced is that sensitive information stays on a network share that's encrypted as well, okay, to protect the organization. Real-time exploit detection, we've set that up. Okay, we've reorchestrated, because we've got two sides of campus, we've reorchestrated where our wireless connectivity for WolfieNet, which is our main side of campus, sits. Okay, we've moved them external to our network so that when you connect to WolfieNet, you no longer have access to our clinical systems. Okay. We've got firewalls between all of our external organizations as well. Okay, Comac, Stony Brook Medicine. Okay, we've implemented enterprise-wide patch schedule for not just our servers, but for all our desktops as well. Okay, so if you have your computer on for a month or so and you see it reboots, it's because we're actually actively patching it. So the smaller doctors, the way they're deployed is, if you ever go to one of those offices, you'll actually see not just the network access point, but you'll also see a firewall there. Okay? All the physician practices in their offices are set up in a similar way. You'll see a firewall there. Okay? Okay, for next year, hold on a second. Because all of this is obviously their budget constraints of what we can do as IT. Okay, so next year we're looking at managed printing services, a a full identity and account management system, which is scheduled to go into implementation, I believe, in January of this year. Okay? Two-factor authentication for our remote access systems, okay, to protect ourselves at times from external partners and others. Okay, how many people have had to change their password over the last 6 months? Today? Wow, actually, you're a visitor. You haven't had that experience yet. All right, so this is part of the presentation where I'm going to ask you how it went, what your experience was, how we're doing as IT, what you feel has worked, not worked, has it been problematic. So I need your feedback.
Yeah, I guess we received an email about 24 hours before it was about to, my password was about to expire, but then it wasn't clear if this was actually being sent from the hospital or not.
Are you sure you didn't receive this email probably about a couple weeks before?
I did, and then the day before it was due, we got a separate email. It was just a little confusing. It was like,
It looked fishy.
it looks fishy.
It looked really strange. I didn't know.
So it looked like the same phishing email you get from an external source. Okay, we'll rectify that.
But then involving the process of changing, it was actually pretty simple to do.
Okay.
It looked fishy, agreed, and then it happened that we were not upstate, we were in Maine, out of pretty much anywhere, and it happened while we were out of town with no heads up, and now we had no contact with anything. And the only time we had Wi-Fi was after hours.
Ooh.
The phones weren't working up in the mountains, and the help desk couldn't help us off. We were suddenly cut off for 2 weeks. So in August is not a good time.
Okay. So it's 6 months from the last time you changed your password. So it's based on,
Every 3 months we did.
it was supposed to be 6. Well, right now we're at 6. We're going to get to 3.
Change every 3 months. I get up.
Okay. If you're a researcher that's ever connected to the GCRC Active Directory domain or other domains, if you connect to the NCI, if you connect to a lot of other sources, it's 3 months. I believe for us, we're transitioning from 6 to eventually 3. Okay, baby steps. Where's Dr. Kelly? Am I right? Our password policy, it's every 6 months. Okay.
The other thing that was interesting was just the number of passwords, I mean, that is affected in terms of the amount of devices or accounts that use to update the password, like probably, like the calendar for this and the email for that, the phone book login, so it's just a lot of that.
Okay, so we have two sides of campus. Let me see if I can explain this. Two sides of campus, main campus, which is you have a Stony Brook ID for, and then you've got UHMC. Anything that involves patient-centric information has to authenticate from the UHMC. Okay? If you have a Stony Brook Medicine email account, once you change that password, it changes, it sets everything in terms of Outlook, sets everything in terms of when you log into an internal computer here. Okay, so unfortunately, we have to keep them separate. Okay, we had a trust relationship with the main side of campus. We had to cut that off simply because we had a lot of people trying to brute force our systems from that side of campus. This side of campus, it's enclosed because of the nature of the data that we try to protect. Main campus, it's a more open network. Okay?
For that,
Yep.
what? Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
But, everyone else is over there.
Yep.
And then the other question is, what's the patch cycle look like? Because the WannaCry
Mhm.
outreach had the appropriate patch that came out of Patch Tuesday back in March,
Mhm.
and then the breach happened in May.
Yep.
So I think a lot of institutions, they felt that breach kind of happened in their patch cycle, that a lot of institutions, they wait for a month to see if there's any flaws with the patch.
Yep.
And then it takes maybe a month or two to actually patch all the systems. What does that look like here?
So there's Patch Tuesday, which you know about. Okay. So typically what we do is we will actually wait a couple days.
Right.
Okay, and then we actually implement the patch. So if it's Tuesday, it'd most likely be Thursday or so before those patches get applied. We don't wait a whole month, okay? In terms of,
How long does that take?
what do you mean?
Patch all your systems.
It could be lengthy. It starts with the servers. It goes department by department, okay? I don't have the actual statistics, but I can get them for you, okay?
Like a month or 2 months?
No, I don't think it takes that long, yeah.
And then the educational.
The educational, it's ongoing. There is employee orientation. You actually start to manage a portal that has educational content as well, so that's evolving. And we are trying to find more creative ways of informing our employees. Okay?
This might be too much down in the weeds for this talk, but I'm a clinician. I use Dragon, and Dragon is always having problems. Dragon is VSync error, this error, that error. So one of the then I met with the Dragon lady, and one of the things that she mentioned was that at the ambulatory sites, the reason I was getting this error was that the computers were not getting turned off and then on again, and they were not getting updated. So it became really clear to me that certain computers, that because I'm not updated. I'm a clinician. I get there. I want to use it right away. I don't turn it off and take ownership at the end of the night like I would for my own desktop. So my question is, what is our procedure for ensuring that all of our computers are ambulatory sites?
You brought up an interesting point. The patch management is supposed to happen enterprise-wide. Okay? Go ahead, Dr. Kelly.
Not to get down in the weeds of the whole thing, but just regarding these random myself. A couple of things. One is that we do have script logic that pushes down things, and sometimes the computers will reboot at night because we tell them to do so. But that being said, the Dragon actually has a different problem. So we actually took advantage of the recent nuance hack. That was one of the worst hacks you've ever seen in your life, and we could have discussed this for an hour here. And they're actually going to give us the next Dragon product for free, which is Dragon Medical One that lives in the cloud. And when we get that, it will be a much more reliable Dragon. The reason why we know that is if you use your iPhone, the Dragon almost always works perfect. You think it's the iPhone completely for medical on the server app, it's not. It's Dragon 1, but the difference is the iPhone goes directly to the cloud. The one that we have installed right now is on our own network, and that means, and as you know, sometimes we can't keep our because of other programs, we have to keep our browser low and other things low, but we just can't get it to do it that way. So this program, first of all, so hopefully when tax goes live, it's going to find a browser. But the second thing is that it's going to map either way. It's going to go directly to the cloud when that happens. So we hope to have that in the next couple of months, and hopefully your Dragon thing will probably be most of the time.
That's reassuring you, it's not the whole system.
No, it's not your fault. It's really the communication with the computer system.
Go ahead.
Health and Human Services, where do you report data breaches? Where do you get the data?
There's an office. I can forward that to you personally.
But you also have to report it if it's over 500.
500, yes.
You have to tell the patient, or you have to make it a public announcement.
Yes.
As well as report it to the government.
It's a public announcement to the entire.
There are rules, but it's local newspapers with lists of names. You have to contact the patients. I mean, there's a lot, but the threshold is 500.
Yeah.
So it may be not, so at 500 you have to report to the police, okay, and it's directly under the supervision of the government, but at the same time, they do look at the level of breach too.
Yeah.
And, but when it allows that many charts, they're going to know, and that really depends upon the remedy. That's why sometimes you'll see people saying, like Equifax has to do the
Remediation,
virus,
yeah.
it's all for me.
But I was wondering, for instance, if you came into a hospital, right, you fill out a million forms and you sign away a lot of stuff. Would that be something on a form that says we have had a data breach of?
No, probably not. We would probably put it in some sort of a there's a publicly reporting website that's supposed to go to, and if it was something that was big, you'd probably hear it on Channel 12 News, you know, or something like that. But we wouldn't most likely give you a form unless that was felt to be part of a good way to communicate the remediation.
Okay.
They were coming from old email accounts, and now they're coming from accounts that are legal. And you open them up, and you realize it's not from the person. But these are like management people here at the university. So what's changed that now they're getting it live email addresses versus old email addresses?
They've gotten more sophisticated. In all honesty, that's what it is. It used to be when you got a phishing attempt, there'd be broken English in an attempt. Okay? They would talk in their language construction on the email wasn't that good, and you'd just be like, who's sending this to me? Now they've gotten so clever, the email itself looks like it's internal. Okay? That's the level of sophistication that we're dealing with right now.
One of the problems I find at Stony Brook is it's too easy to find out our emails. I mean, everybody is Donna.Heineman at stonybrookmedicine.edu, whereas my friends at Hopkins, it's not.
Yeah.
You know,
It's H, yeah. H, that's something Heinemann
Why
something.
can't we change our emails to make it more difficult for hackers to find us?
So we would, you know, it's a good thing we'll take back, and we are at some point going to actually go out and hire even a specialty position of chief security because it's becoming such an issue. We're actually going to even get more internal expertise, and it's possible that we might run it by them and they may not feel that would make a difference. It's possible. It might make a difference to the high school person up the block and it may not make a difference to the professionals. But at the end of the day, it's a good idea. We'll take it back.
On the other hand, a lot of institutions are putting physician emails right on the web for patient access.
Yeah.
Advertising, so you've got to pick which one you want.
I would agree, and that's probably the reason why somebody like the CSO or the people who consulted with have not recommended that because they probably know it's out there.
But those people have two emails. They have their patient-facing basic Donna.Heineman email where the patients go into, and that's it. Very small, and then they have the private emails which are different. And a lot of those institutions.
Or just make some kind of user ID of the thing that you use to log in. Like the username is not repeated in your email, it's like a separate thing.
Yeah, they've mentioned that.
But some of it is because somebody you're sending email to or somebody you sent email to
Has been compromised.
has been compromised,
Yeah.
and they get a list, it wouldn't matter what you sent.
Yeah.
The realm of audio-visual, like FaceTime, Google Hangout, Skype Business, it's such a gray area in terms of HIPAA. It seems that the level of encryption that exists is HIPAA compliant. However, there are like overlays, right? Like business agreements, and then audits that the companies have opened them, not Facebook, but like other companies that like Skype have opened themselves to.
Yep.
But what I don't understand is how that email. Email's the big bad one. Never use your own private email, even if it's Gmail or not, right? But then Google Hangout, that has a level of encryption that is quote-unquote potentially compliant.
So let me say this. Gmail started, we couldn't get a business associate agreement for it. It's evolved right now. You can get business associate agreements for more of Google technologies right now. So it's an evolving landscape. Rule of thumb, a business, Skype for business versus regular Skype, okay? One of the things that you get from us is communications and policies that are written to tell you which applications are validated for the enterprise. Okay, so you guys should follow that. At some point, we'll be putting together a website that incorporates all of this for employees to go in and look at readily. The policies are there and available right now, but just a way of additionally centralizing a lot of this information.
Just one question. You had mentioned about bring your own computer policy.
Bring your own device, yes?
So, I have an Apple laptop that's in mine, which I bring here, use on doing server. Is there anything that I should be doing or specifically with my own device?
Okay, which network do you put your device on? SBUMC? Okay. That's the best network for this. One of the other issues with the SBUMC is that it is actually actively scanning all the device that's on the network as well. So if there's an issue with your device, most likely your device will be flagged. Okay. If it stops working, you know why. Okay. So please keep up the security patches.
Okay, I think we're going to call it